the Union Cabinet meets and takes some big bang decisions. Number one, diesel. The subsidies are gone for good. What is called in technical terms as deregulation. Diesel will now be priced on the basis of the market, no longer by the government. The number two big decision, the contentious price of gas has finally been fixed by the government, something that has been the subject of intense speculation over the past year and more. We'll be debating all of that very shortly, but first let's just get you the hard news in from my colleagues Rahul Srivastav and Shweta Rajpal Kohli, who join me from New Delhi. Rahul, first to you. Now, a big decision coming from the cabinet about finally removing subsidies from diesel, a politically sensitive decision, something which has been taken at a time when diesel prices all over the world are going down. So in some ways easier for the government to take at this time, also given the fact that it's been taken immediately after voting ended in Maharashtra and in Haryana.
Yes, Srinivasan, basically what one can say, when the going is good, perhaps the Narendra Modi government has realized that it is perhaps the best time to push in the bitter pill. What the government eventually has done is decided on two extremely important pending issues, and issues which eventually, this is not just a decision taken, but perhaps it's a signal of intent by the government, a signal of intent that the government is moving ahead as far as reforms are concerned. Diesel deregulation is something we had heard Prime Minister when he was meeting investors in the United States on his recent visit. Somewhere the government had to signal that it is moving ahead with the reform process, and subsidy burden and diesel prices and the diesel subsidies were one of the biggest issues. Last year alone, the fuel subsidy was nearly 63,000 crore, and at least half of it has always been diesel. The government knew that it had to decide on it if it has to reduce the subsidy burden, and that is why at a time when the diesel prices were such, because of the international crude prices, that one, the oil producing nations were not cutting down production, and somewhere the prices were stable and low. The government was, the oil companies were making something close to 3.5 rupees of profit on each litre of diesel. The government has moved in to remove any kind of its control over the price of diesel. What it means, oil companies will be able to decide the prices of diesel as per the international market of whatever are the costs, cost linkages. Interestingly, it will not only benefit the oil companies, save them from under recoveries, but also players, private players like Reliance and SR, who had to shut down their retail outlets primarily because they were never given a subsidy and they eventually were forced to sell at lower prices. They were incurring losses. Private sector can move into this sector. The second, of course, is the gas pricing, which is another very interesting, important step.
Right, we'll come to the gas pricing part in just a second, but Shweta, just to get you in on the final decision now to remove any subsidy on diesel, as we know that they've gradually been increasing the price of diesel steadily, and as Rahul pointed out, politically perhaps this was the best time to do it. But given the experience with the same experiment with petrol, where it was supposed to be deregulated, but the government keeps kind of an informal check on it, are we likely to see that happen with diesel, or do you think the government is now going to bite the bullet and allow it to be completely market determined?
Well, Vasu, at least right now, given the fact that we are seeing crude oil prices plunging to below $80 a barrel, we don't see any government interference, because you know what? Now we are seeing a trend of falling crude oil prices, unlike the trend we saw all these years of rising crude oil prices. Just to put this in perspective, normally when you would see the headline, government ends diesel subsidy, what would happen? The immediate reaction is that means diesel prices are going to go up. But what has happened today? The government has ended diesel subsidy, and you know what? Diesel prices have been cut, and that's the good news. That's the unprecedented change in scenario that we've seen over the last few months, and that's why the timing that Rahul was talking about, the fact that the government has decided to go ahead and bite the bullet in that perfect timing, just after the polls and just at a time when we've seen crude oil prices plunging to 5-year lows. There couldn't have been a better timing to go ahead with this decision. But more importantly, Vasu, from the economy's point of view, this is a perfect answer to many of those people who have been saying, where are the big bang reforms from the Modi government? This was a government that's supposed to be pro-growth. This is a government that's supposed to be pro-reforms. So in that sense, this also takes care of that apprehension that the expectations from the industry were very high, the expectation from economists were very high. But here is the government that's finally gone ahead and freed up diesel prices, which really is a big, bold decision. Whether they're able to carry it out or not will depend on the direction crude prices take here on. As of now, the sense that one gets is crude prices will continue to stay at these levels of about $80 a barrel, where the government really has nothing to worry, because then we're not going to see the concern of diesel prices moving up sharply. So at least for now, it seems like it's a decision here to stay. Vasu.
Right, thanks Shweta for that. We will also be going across live to reactions from the BJP, from energy sector experts the moment we get those reactions. So the moment we get those reactions lined up, we will be going across to that. I believe we have GVL Narasimha Rao of the BJP. He joins us on the line. Let's just get his reaction first. Mr. Narasimha Rao, thanks very much indeed for joining us. A big decision there by the BJP, given that last year around the same time your entire Delhi unit was on the streets of the city protesting against the UPA's attempts to try and remove diesel subsidies, saying that this is going to hurt Aam Aadmi, this is going to push up prices, but now you're going through with it. Will you have the political will to stick to it?
No, absolutely, Srinivasan, because I think I would like to jog your memory and take you back to 2002. The BJP government's intent, even in 2002, I think it was the Vajpayee government which had deregulated prices of both petrol, petrol and diesel. And I think when the NDA, when the UPA government came in, I think you have seen this, the whole process being reversed. So I think this government is fully committed, and this government feels possibly this is the best time to do it, because the actual consumers would actually end up paying significantly less, more than 3 to 4 rupees less than what they've been paying till today. And also the government really feels, I think these are this deregulation is in order and aligning the prices, the retail prices of diesel with the international prices would be the best thing to do. This government knows how to communicate its actions to the people. This government is committed to undertake reforms, but do it in a manner that people understand it.
If I could just interrupt you for a moment and come in on the point of this government being committed to this particular reform of diesel deregulation, would you not in many ways admit that you've been lucky that international crude prices have fallen to 5-year lows that have allowed you to take this decision? Because it's the same BJP that had actually opposed this move all this while. Each time the UPA government had tried to go ahead and deregulate diesel price or even increase the price of diesel, you were the first one to take to the streets opposing it, saying it would actually lead to an increase in inflation and prices. So wouldn't you credit the fall in international prices to you having got the ability to take the decision?
No, at the same time, I think you have to give us the credit for bringing the inflation rates down drastically in the last 4 months. We have actually inherited an economy which was very low growth and very high inflation. And this government has been successful in bringing the inflation levels lowest to the level which is the lowest in the last 5 years. So I think you cannot simply, it's not simply a kind of a lucky chance for the government to take up reforms. This government is committed to bring about discipline, economic discipline. We want to bring the inflation rates down. We have brought it down already to 5-year low levels.
But
so certainly it has happened not purely through chance. It is a lot of actions.
Even if crude prices were to go back to the levels that we had seen, say $120 a barrel, you would stick to your decision? Is that something that we can see as a commitment from this government? Never mind the global crude price, you would go ahead and keep diesel prices deregulated, freed up.
Yes, certainly this government has shown its intent. This government is committed to take it forward. But at the same time, please understand, the priority of this government is to ensure that the poor, the common man and the farmers do not really get the hit. So if prices, if things were to change drastically tomorrow, I cannot really see. Some kind of intervention, limited intervention might be necessary, but this government is in principle committed to keeping keep the reforms going.
All right,
but at the same time, this government is a common man's government. This is a pro-people government. This government will not do things which will really make it life difficult for the poor and the common man.
That's an interesting admission. That's an interesting admission to Shweta's
No,
question.
I am saying
about
it.
Today you're saying that because prices are low, you've deregulated. Tomorrow, if prices are going up, you're saying that again you'll intervene. That's not really then
No, not that.
Deregulation, is it?
Srinivasan, please understand, a government has, I think you have a responsibility to keep your fiscal discipline. At the same time, any government will have certain commitment to the people. So I am not saying it will be done. It is unlikely, most unlikely. But in the extremest of situations, some kind of alternative will have to be thought of for a limited section, possibly. I am only telling you about a possible situation, how governments behave. I am not saying it will happen.